Good evening, everybody. Apologies there for the slight pause in the music. I don't know what the hell happened there, but everything just kind of froze for a second, which kind of made my heart go, but we appear to be okay. I don't know what happened. Studio One just basically paused by itself. I don't know why. My computer has been on for like 2 days, so that might have something to do with it. I probably should have restarted before the show, but in either case, here we are. I hope everyone is well. Good evening. Welcome to the show on this 19th. Good grief. 19th of February already. That's bonkers. 2023 is going by so ludicrously fast, even though time is a constant and, you know, the Earth rotates at 15 degrees per hour. It still feels like it's going ludicrously fast. Anyway. But I hope everyone is all right. Right now, we are in the midst of a storm. We have incredibly high winds going on outside, so you may hear some of that on the mic as we go through the course of the evening. And hopefully, power and internet will stay on and we'll be good. But if it does go down, if the internet does go down, or the show goes down for any reason, that is likely the explanation. It will be for one of those reasons, and I will try and figure out a way to come back to the show. Like I may start one on my phone if that happens, and use my phone network. But we'll see. That is the backup plan. But we'll take it from there. We'll see. But hopefully everything will be fine. All right. So let's go see, who do we have here tonight. We have Tony Cadona. We have Billy Morgan. We have Carl Traduziak. We have Mike Johnson at Music to Motion, and we have Kevin's Guitar Stories. We have Dave from Bops NY. We have Rich from Studio One Toots. And now that I'm saying that correctly, and we also have John Hawk as well, which is fantastic. And who else do we have? Oh, we have the anonymous housewife here who says must not comment. That's funny. Who else do we have? We got Dwayne here as well, which is fantastic. And I think that's pretty much all we have in the show tonight, which is cool. But we have a question, which comes from Rich, and he says, just to start you off, he says, the different things that we can do with Melodyne would be neat. Okay. I will be straight up and honest about Melodyne and how I use it. I use it purely for correcting little bits of intonation here and there. That's about all I do with it. However, that's with the Melodyne Essentials version that you get with Studio One Professional. And that's the only version I use. There are other versions of Melodyne that do a heck of a lot more. But that said, with the Essentials version, and particularly with the new release of Melodyne Essentials, there's things like tempo mapping that you can do, which is pretty awesome, pretty powerful things that you can do with that now. And then there's, of course, different algorithms that are available in Melodyne as well. So for the most part, I use it for the melodic algorithm, but there are different ones there. There's a percussive one, and there's a few different other ones as well. But Melodyne, really, I just use it for correcting little bits of minor intonation and, you know, notes where they're just a little bit too pitchy. For the most part, I try and keep things natural. But sometimes, you know, you have to go in and correct something where, you know, either the vocalist or an instrumentalist is maybe a little sharp or a little flat. I don't kind of try and get things to be exactly, you know, 0 cents. The reason why is because if you set everything to 0 cents, it sounds really robotic and it sounds really unnatural because, you know, the human voice and by extension, instruments that are either blown or played in any way that requires you to make the notes, such as a stringed instrument or a brass or a woodwind instrument, intonation is a thing. It's a human variance. where, you know, on the violin, you may kind of place your finger just a hair too sharp, and most good violinists have really, really incredibly sharp ears and will be able to adjust their finger position accordingly, and they can do that very, very quickly. The same with a good trumpet player or a good trombonist. You know, you either adjust your embouchure or you adjust your slide on the trombone, or you adjust on the trumpet. There's an extra little valve which has like a little ring. If you've ever seen a trumpet, it's got this little ring thing that's attached to what is essentially a fourth valve, sort of. And you can correct intonation using that. You just basically, you put your other hand in here. This hand is used for pressing down the valves, and this hand, you basically just use that ring thing to slide the fourth valve tube along a wee bit, so you can either push it out or pull it in a little bit to correct intonation. Because inherently, musical instruments have design flaws where some of the intonation is not quite true or not quite perfect. So brass instruments are replete with them. Woodwind instruments are replete with them as well. Bagpipes are incredibly replete with intonation problems, and I don't think Melodyne would ever fix bagpipes, but that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, you could probably use Melodyne to fix that too. But fundamentally, bagpipes, especially Scottish bagpipes, they have a range of like a ninth, I think it is. It's an octave and a tone. And the octave note above the lowest note, the note that's the octave above that, is actually a little bit sharp. And the lowest note that you can play on the bagpipes is actually quite a bit flat, because it was designed, bagpipes were designed long before equal temperament was invented. And so were a lot of these instruments, like violins and trumpets and French horns and all of that. They all predate equal temperament. So there are inherent intonation issues. Melodyne is great for sorting out those kind of issues. And the same with the human voice. Nobody, even the greatest vocalist on the planet, nobody hits the note exactly dead center. Even the great vocalists, they don't immediately do that. With that in mind, you know, everybody slightly scoops up to a note if they're a little flat, or they'll scoop down if they're a little sharp. Everybody does that. And really, what makes a great singer set apart from, you know, just an average singer is that they can adjust very, very quickly. They know immediately when they're a hair sharp or a hair flat, and they can adjust very quickly. And even great vocalists who have incredibly powerful and very accurate voices, they still need a little help with Melodyne, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, Melodyne can be used very, very creatively for some other things. For example, let's say you want to convert some audio into MIDI. Let's say you want to get an idea of a trumpet line to a trumpet player, and the trumpet player is not really a music reader. So one of the things you can do is you can sing your melody line into an audio track, and then with Melodyne, you just edit that track with Melodyne, and then you pull down that track onto an instrument track. I can show you how to do that. Just let me take care of one particular task that I need to do. And there we go. There you go. Kyle, congratulations. You are now a moderator for my channel. Congratulations. All you got to do is drop out the show and come back in, and you will find that you are blue with the blue wrench. All right, so how do we do this whole thing that I've just mentioned? I can show you how to do that. So let's get over to Studio One. Let's put my mic on. My camera on is what I meant. All right, so let's take this little vamp here that we've got here. All right, so what we need is an instrument track. And we'll just call this voice for now. And so we've got ourselves a nice little voice track. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to record something. But before I do that, I'm going to go and get another instance of presence, drop that underneath there. We'll go and grab a brass instrument and we will go, oh, that's bass, idiot. What's the one underneath I want? And we'll go for trumpet. With a harmon mute with some vibrato. Because I like the sound of this instrument. A little bit Miles Davis. So we're going to take that out of record arm mode for a moment. And we go back onto this track. We'll take off the loop. And we'll just record something very, very briefly, just for a few bars. I'm going to give myself my metronome with my pre-count. There you go. That'll do. All right, and now what we'll do is we'll go and edit this guy with Melodyne. And our little Melodyne editor opens up like that. And then what we're going to do is we are going to select everything. And this is where you do want to go to town and basically make everything exactly 0. I've not used Melodyne in ages, so I need to try and remember how to do this. Correct pitch, pitch center max, and then we'll bring in the pitch drift as well. And we can see straight away that all of those notes are okay. All right, so I'm happy with that. And then what we do is we just go and we drag this down. And then what we might need to do is pitch these up by an octave, but we'll see. And it's got some of the rhythms wrong, you'll notice. And some of the notes are a little bit longer than they should be. And this is where you would just go to town and just, you know, make some edits where you need to. Like for example, we need to make that short. Now it seems like it hasn't detected that these are 2 notes. And we can make this one short as well. Get that one a little shorter. Now let's just check this out here. And I don't think it's got this right at all. Let's just mute the voice. Now there should be an extra note there actually. So let's get the split again. And then all of these can be nice and shortened up. And then that's just blatantly wrong. And that'll do. But that gives you roughly the idea here. And then, of course, we can take this and we can transpose it. Transpose it plus 1 octave. And it's there or thereabouts. So that's basically what you need to do. If you want to convert audio to MIDI, so you can give a trumpet player or a sax player an idea of a line that you have, that's what you would do. And then you just go and tidy it up, essentially. Because all you needed from Melodyne was the pitches and a rough idea of the rhythm. And then you can just go and tidy up the rhythm and, you know, correct a couple of notes here and there. And that's essentially it. This is to me anyway, personally, this is a really powerful tool in Melodyne. It's really, really cool that you can just extract the MIDI data from Melodyne and just drop that into a completely different instrument. And it means that, you know, if you want to generate, you know, kind of a much more realistic solo for an instrument, you can do that. It does mean that you're going to have to do a little bit of editing after the fact to kind of make it how you want it. But fundamentally, you can get your ideas down for a trumpet or a saxophone. And you can make something very, very useful. So with Melodyne Essentials, you can do this with monophonic sounds, just like your voice. Or, for example, another use of this, and I've done this before, where I had a guy come in and do an alto saxophone solo. And I did this on a track for a record. And for whatever reason, we didn't get the sound we wanted from the saxophone. I think there was something to do with one of the keys needing repadded. And basically every time he played this particular key, you would hear it go click. And it just totally wrecked the saxophone solo. So what I could have done is I could have gone into all the audio and basically tried to take out all those clicks. It would have taken a very long time. So I used this approach to replace the real saxophone with a fake one. But it was his line. It was his improvisation. And I just, you know, tried to, you know, I had to constantly reference the real saxophone solo to make sure I was getting rhythms right and that kind of thing. But I reconstructed his sax solo, used a virtual instrument, and guess what? Nobody was any of the wiser, not even the guy who I called in to do the sax part. He was just blown away. He was just like, wow, that sounds fantastic. He had no idea that I totally replaced his saxophone. But it is something that you can do. And it does take a wee bit of time to do all the editing. You have to have a wee bit of patience, but it will pay off. Invest the time, invest the patience, and it will pay off. This is the thing with music production that a lot of people don't get. A lot of people, they just want to be able to, do, they want to do things really, really fast. and then they complain when something doesn't happen in a nanosecond that they expect to happen in a nanosecond. Music production doesn't work like that. Actually, oftentimes, if you're working furiously fast, you can make the wrong decisions, and you can end up actually hurting the end result of what you're trying to get. So sometimes, whilst having a fast workflow is a good thing because it means you get to the end quicker, and it means that your effective hourly rate is better because you're getting the work done quicker than the customer may expect, and therefore your hourly rate is better. Sometimes fast is good. Sometimes patience and taking care and attention to detail creates a far superior product. Might take you a little bit longer to get there, but what you end up with is a far superior product. So sometimes taking time to do things like this and be a little bit painstaking can really, really reap good rewards. You just have to be patient. But there you go. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Mike says, can you mute the vocals so we can just hear the sax? It wasn't a sax, it was a trumpet, but yes, I think I did that there at the end. Let's see. So yes, it is very, very cool. Dave says, how do song files end up in the pool? I see some of my song files in there and some not. I don't think I clicked any buttons to differentiate one song or another. Now, here's the thing about the pool. When you open a song, such as this one, any audio that you record in the song lives in the pool. All right, so anything you do within the song in terms of audio recordings or external files brought in to the song, this is where they end up. And this is really, really important. Because this is how your audio files are referenced by your song. Now you'll see here that we've got these clip kind of symbols here. And those represent different files, and then you've got this R here, which means that I've rendered this. So you've got all of these, and then you've got the drums. This is an external drum loop here, verse 1 dry Gretsch 67 BPM. This is this thing here. This is my drum loop at the top here. Which should be a lot slower. It should be 67 BPM, but I speeded it up and thought, you know what, this actually sounds great. This works as a kind of nice up sort of above mid-tempo funk groove. So that's what I did with this. So that's an external file. And that's why you see that in there. That came from Looploft, in actual fact. I have a whole bunch of Looploft loops. And that was one of them. And I just dragged it into the song. And then, of course, you have to make sure that you have copy external files switched on. And if you're not sure where to do that, you go Studio One Options on a PC, Studio One Preferences on a Mac. And then you go to Locations and you make sure this box here, Ask to Copy External Files when Saving Document, is checked. When you have this checked, when you save the song, a dialog box will come up and it will say, are you sure that you want to save these external files? And you just hit yes. Don't even read the dialog box, just hit yes. It is essential you hit yes. If you don't hit yes, then these external files don't get saved to your song. And then when you open it up again in the future, and let's say you've deleted those files, let's say this drum track here, I delete from Looploft. I delete from my Looploft collection because I'm just like, I'm not going to need that anymore. I'm just not going to need it anymore. If I have not copied this from its external location so that it is being referenced directly from the song's media folder, then what will happen is I will get a missing files error message. And most people's missing file error messages come because they have not copied external files into their song. So even though I've copied the external files, it is still in the pool. The pool is the reference point for all of your audio. So song files do not end up in here, but audio files that you are using in your song or have used or have created in your song, this is where they populate. So even if you delete something from here, like this road here, or even if I decide, hey, I don't need this voice track anymore. Let's say I go, I don't need this anymore because I've got what I've wanted out of it, and I just delete that. Did you see what happened? Let me put it back in. See this event here? Watch what happens. Now I'm going to put it back. See the little clip thing? Watch this. I'm going to select that event. Doink. Now it's just gone back to its audio. The MIDI data is gone. Did you see that? So this MIDI data from Melodyne is gone when I delete that track, when I delete that event. But notice how the event itself, the audio event, is still here. This is one of the great things about Studio One, non-destructive editing. So even though I've deleted this event, like this, I can still bring this back in to the song. I can just go and drag that and put it back in. But I don't want to do that. But that's the beauty of the pool. So song files never end up in here, but audio files for your song do. That's where they live. That is their home. But great question. A lot of people misunderstand that and they end up with missing files errors, and then they end up making support tickets and they say, oh, my files are all gone. And in some cases they are. In some cases, that's exactly what's happened because they have deleted those files from their computer. They don't exist anymore because they've thought, oh, it's just a sample I got off the internet. So they drag that into the song and they get creative and they start working with this thing. But they've never copied it to their media folder in the song folder. And so what happens is when you delete that file off of your computer, if you've not got that box checked and you don't hit yes, then that file is gone. There is no recovering it. Even if you search high and low, you'll never find it. So really, really important. Everybody should have Studio One options, Studio One preferences, locations, user data, ask to copy external files when saving document. Have this checked, and then when the dialog box asks you to copy the external files, hit yes every time. All right, everybody should have that, and you will find that you have very, very few, if not eliminate the whole missing files problem. So I hope that helps, and I have rammed that point home. I even rolled my R because it's that important. Good question. There's always some editing needed when you do things like that, but it really gives a great start. Yes, absolutely. With Studio One, there's no need for a third-party plugin to do this. To do what? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Not sure what you're referring to. Anyway, the pools should contain any audio files you brought into the song, whether you use them or not, hence cleaning the pool prior to sharing. You should not be missing any audio files. Yes. Old School Funk and Soul is here. Hello, mate. Good to see you. He says, I learned about rushing sessions the hard way. Yes, I think we've all done that, for sure. Carl says, I think the cat knocked them into the pool. And Dave says, copy external. Thanks. Solved my issue right there. Perfecto. That's what I like to hear. All right, so we got 24 or so people watching here, which is fantastic. Sunday Night Live. Love it. But of those 24, only 16 of you have liked the show. It really helps me out. If you all were to hit that like button, I would appreciate that a lot. So we got 25 people in here, which is awesome. 26 people. It's kind of hovering between 25 and 26, which is great. So please do smack the like button. It helps me out a lot. And if you are here and you're watching, but you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and also ring the bell as well and select all notifications so you don't miss anything. You don't miss any of my other videos that are coming later this year, and you don't miss any of my shows, because I do 2 shows per week. I do this show on a Sunday, and I do Songwriting Simplified on a Wednesday as well. And the cool thing about Songwriting Simplified is I will be having guest co-hosts on the show with me. And so you're going to see a different face every time. It's not just going to be me. You'll see other people. Like last week, we had Rich Cresswell from Studio One Toots. He was here, and we talked composing using sound libraries and that kind of thing. And we had a great discussion, great conversation. So I will be inviting other guests onto future shows for Songwriting Simplified to discuss different songwriting and composing and arranging and music theory concepts as we go. Sometimes it'll just be me, and sometimes I'll have a guest as well, just to vary things and kind of make it a lot more fun for everybody. So there we go. I hope everybody has found all of that useful. Mike says, no need for third-party audio to MIDI plugins with Studio One. Yes, absolutely. If you have Studio One Professional, you have Melodyne Essentials. And with Melodyne Essential, you can do that. You can do that whole audio to MIDI thing. And by the way, on this channel, there is a standalone video that goes over that. If you want to go over the whole process again, there's a standalone video called Audio to MIDI. Go check that out. It's got a very funny picture of a nice furry animal playing a Dizzy Gillespie style trumpet as the picture for that show, for that video. So check that out. Now, Tony says, I asked a question about the show feature at the beginning. I will go and take a wee look. Remember, if you're asking a question, you need to put at Jonny Lipsham Studios. Otherwise, I don't see your question. Because there's lots of chat going on here, and I don't really want to have to waste time going and trying to find it. So please do make sure you put at Jonny Lipsham Studios, otherwise I can't find it. And you did, actually, so good on you. But that's just a reminder to everybody. And you said, can you do a short tutorial on setting up the show feature? Show page is very cool. And actually, there are some great videos that both Joe and Gregor have done on the subject of the show page. But it's actually very, very cool. And it's not too difficult to get into. What about managing automation lanes and having them as separate tracks on top of instrument audio tracks? We can do that in a separate show, for sure. Rich, if you'd be so kind as to drop me an email with that question, we can certainly do that. Because that's actually a good question, and that'll take a wee while to unpack. And I would like to. So please drop me an email for that question there, Rich. I'd appreciate it. All right. Let me go over here. Uh-oh. I think Studio One is frozen on me. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. All right, so show page. All right, let me show you the show page for those of you that have never seen it before. All right, this is what it looks like, and it's actually really quite easy to set up. And there's lots of other things you can do to this. And in actual fact, I did a video on show page for the Studio One 5 launch, which is on this channel as well. So go check out my Studio One 5 playlist, and you'll find that there's a whole section on the show page there as well. But essentially in this section here, you have your set list. So these are all of your songs. So I've got these ones here. I've got a couple of songs from my EPs and my albums over the years, and then I've got this Brecker Brothers two Brecker Brothers covers, and then I've got My Funny Valentine. This is just a mock-up of a show, but you can have a player, and you can have as many players as you want. You can have backing tracks, which is what this one is. So as you can see, this has got a couple of my songs as backing tracks, and then I've got some virtual instruments. So I've got a keys virtual instrument here, and as you can see, the instrument changes every time. So in the first song, we're on acoustic piano, then we're on Hammond organ, then we're on Wurlitzer, then we're back to piano again, and then so on and so on and so forth down the line, and then we finish with some strings. These are what we call patches, and you can change these. As you can see, there's a wee list here, or you can change it to none, or you can mute if you don't need. But if I right click here, you can save a patch, you can update a patch, you can rename a patch, you can add a patch, you can just drag and drop, basically. You can drag and drop sounds onto any of these players. You can add another virtual instrument player, you can add a real instrument. So for example, the vocals is a real instrument player. And as I said, you've got the backing track there as well. So you just add these players in. So this is my vocal one, and this has got a vocal chain. In fact, it's got a couple of different vocal chains that I might use. So this is my personal one. Then there's this more rock-orientated male live one. And then we've got a kind of big reverby one for My Funny Valentine at the end there. And then we've got this virtual saxophone as well, and we've got a patch here for this. But yeah, check out the manuals for Studio One 6, and also check out the playlist for Studio One 5, either here or over on the Presonus YouTube channel, because there's a whole bunch of stuff on the show page there. But this gives you just a basic broad overview of what you can add. You can change time signatures and tempos, and you can have a gap in between your songs as well. Like if you want to talk to your audience, you can just have the show set in perform mode, which is what this does. And in perform mode, it plays this gap here. And the cool thing is, you see this little symbol here. If I click this, I can set this so that it either continues on into the next song, or it just stops at the end of the song. And then I need to trigger starting the next song, or I can just have it continue. So that one is set to stop at the end because I want to talk a wee bit. And then this one is set to stop at the end as well. But I could change any of these. I could change this one to continue. And I could change this one to stop at the end. And this one to continue. But there's always a gap. Like there's a gap here for me being able to talk to the audience before the next backing track starts. And then you can just add whatever you want into these boxes. And then you've got information down at the bottom, key signature, time signature, how long the pause is, tempo, how long each song is, and what the playback mode is for each of the songs. So you can set all of this up, and you can drag and drop everything from the browser. So if you've got audio files, drag and drop them. If you've got a particular plugin chain, you can go and grab your effects chain, and you can just drag and drop it onto any of these boxes, and then you just save the patch, and done. And your show is created. All right, so I hope that helps. It's a good question. Paul Morgan is asking something. I found out the show page and project page just don't exist in my version of Studio One. I guess it didn't download properly. No, it will have downloaded properly. Now here's the thing. There is only one version of Studio One. But there are 3 editions, and it is the product key that is activated that unlocks the feature set for each edition. So the Prime one only unlocks some of the very, very bare bones basic features. Artist unlocks a few more features, but does not unlock the show page or the project page. So from the fact that you have said you don't have the show or the project page tells me that you have activated Studio One Artist. You can check this. And the way to check that is to go to help. If you're on a PC, go to help and then go down to About Studio One. If you're on a Mac, go to Studio One About. Click on About, and when you do that, what will come up is a dialog box, and it will tell you what version you have unlocked. All right? This is the dialog box you'll see, and it should say Studio One Professional if you have activated the professional version. If it says Artist, then you know that what you need to do is close that, and you need to go to Studio One Activation, activate my purchase version, or if you're a member of PersonaSphere, activate with PersonaSphere, and make sure you select the right one. Now, if you select activate with PersonaSphere and you're a member of PersonaSphere, hit the activate button, and you will activate Studio One Professional. But if you're not a member, then you need to check this option here, activate my purchase version of Studio One, and then click this down arrow at the product key box, click on show my existing keys, and then, which I don't want to show my existing keys because I don't want you to see my product keys. And then you select Studio One Professional because you have activated a Studio One Artist, okay? And then hit activate. And then Studio One will need to restart. And when that happens, you should find that you restart the professional version, and you'll find that the show page and the project page will be where you expect them to be. So I hope that that helps you, Paul, because that's most likely the answer. There you go. He says I had Artist, now it says Pro. Good. So you fixed it. Let's see. John Lake says I'm totally lost. What are you totally lost with, John? All I'm doing is just going through and answering people's questions here. So just explain to me what you're kind of lost on, John, and I'd be happy to help you. After show question, private or public? Probably just keep it amongst our core little group tonight, I would suggest. Paul says I had Artist, now it says Pro. Okay, well, if it now says Pro, then you should have the project page and show page, because that's what the professional version has. So if you do not see the project page or the show page in Studio One, then you are not running Studio One Professional. You are running Studio One Artist or Studio One Prime. That's the only answer. Okay, that's the only answer. If you don't see the project page or the show page in Studio One, you're not running Studio One Professional. You're running a different edition of Studio One. If you're a member of PersonaSphere, then you probably want to go and check and see if your membership has expired, because if it has, you may have got bumped down to a previous version of Studio One. Okay, Acadian Serpent is a new person. Welcome to you. I'm glad you're here. Can we ask anything? You can ask anything Studio One related. If you're a user of Studio One, then I will gladly take your questions, because that's what this show is all about. Tuned in late and then couldn't comment for 10 minutes. Yes, you need to be a subscriber to comment. I have set it to subscribers only. Let's see, what else do we have? Tony says, thanks, Johnny, man. I wish you and other musicians could actually do a live show with the show page. That would be awesome. Oh, you mean for me to be able to demonstrate the show page? Yeah, that's going to be tough to do. I cannot actually demonstrate me working with another musician doing the live, doing this a show in the show page. That would be quite tricky to do. Because I would need to have another musician here in the room to be able to make it happen. Dwayne says, could you mention the free Studio One remote app to control the show page on stage? Computer is off stage. Yes, Studio One remote is awesome. It really is. And you can, with the current version, which is 1.6, I think it is, of the remote app, you can use the show page via the remote app, which is very, very cool. I don't do that because I don't go out on live gigs anymore, unfortunately. But it really does work very, very well. Let's see. Paul Morgan, I'm sure someone here will comment on Zoom to sort it out. Paul says, no, I had artist before I joined Sphere. It says pro, but just gray where the pages should be. So when you open that dialog box that I showed you, when you go to Studio One About, or when you go to Help About Studio One, and the dialog box shows Studio One Professional. If that dialog box shows Studio One Professional, then you should absolutely see the show page and the project page. Now, those only open up if you've actually got a project or a show. If you actually have a project or a show, then those options will open up to you. If you don't, then they won't open. Okay? So, if you see here, there's a button here for songs, and this is all of my songs, not including, well, also including the ones in the recent files list. But you've also got a box here for projects and shows. Do you see these buttons here, Paul? Because if you see these buttons here, then you have Studio One Professional. And if it says at the top here, Studio One Professional, then you're running Studio One Professional. And if you see those boxes, then you definitely have Studio One Professional. Now, in previous versions like Studio One 5, it was easier to tell whether somebody had the artist or professional version activated, because you could just look it up at the top. If there was an upgrade button, you knew that they were running Studio One Artist. It was dead easy to spot. Less easy to spot now that they've kind of done away with that, and you just have this documents button. But if you have a songs button and a projects button and a shows button, if you have these two buttons here, then you have the professional version. But in order for these to have anything in them, you actually have to have documents created. You have to have a project created or a show created. Otherwise, they will probably be grayed out. But what you can do if you don't have any of these is you can just go to New. And if you go to Templates here, you can use one of these smart templates to create whatever you need to create. So if you want to do a mastering thing with the project page, you can do that. If you want to rehearse and perform using the show page, you can do that. There are smart templates for that. So Paul, I hope that sorts that out for you. Paul says, I guess I'm just doing something wrong. I watch tutorials. My version doesn't have any of that. Yeah, Paul, can you confirm whether you see those two buttons? Projects, show. Do you see either of those, or do you just see recent and songs? Okay, I need you to confirm those, and need you to confirm that it says Studio One Professional at the top here, if you're running version 6. Okay, if you're running version 6, you don't have those old buttons up here anymore. The project and show buttons, they are not up the top anymore. See, I don't even have them. They don't exist anymore. Okay, it's all done via the smart templates now. But if you have pre-existing shows, like I've got a few that I've made here, and the same for projects. I've got a few that I've made here. Then they will show up, and you'll be able to open these like this, for example. If I just open up this is a project in the Studio One project page. Okay, so Paul, if you could confirm that. Yes, I see both buttons. I don't get a dialog box if I click on any of the show stuff. Okay, so you perhaps don't actually have any shows or projects created. You need to have a show or a project created in order to be able to open up those pages. So you go back to the home here, and you go to new, click on one of these, master and release, to open up the project page, or rehearse and perform to open up the show page. All right, so if you want to create a new mastering page, click on that. If you want to create a new show, click on that one, and then click on OK. And that will open up either the project page or the show page. Okay, so please try doing that and confirm whether you actually see those templates. And if you click on them and click on OK, they open, because they should do. All right. All right. Arcadian Serpent says, maybe for another show, but I always get a bit confused with conforming an audio clip to match tempo. If I use a loop, I find I need to modify my tempo. All right. So if you have, let me go back to, now this is where this little documents button comes in handy. If I right click on that, I can go back to my song. So let's take, for example, this event here. This is the drum loop. And this originally is a 67 BPM file. Okay, it was originally 67, but the tempo set for this song is 100 beats per minute. Now, the reason why this file is playing at 100 beats per minute and not 67 is because of what I'm about to show you. Click on the eye, and then you may need to pull this section up a wee bit. And when you do, make sure tempo is set to time stretch. And in this case, I have the time stretch algorithm set to drums. You can set it to whatever other thing you need for what you're working with. In this case, it's drums, so I'm using drums. Now, go down to here, and you'll see file tempo. If you have a value that is written in here in red, then Studio One has taken a guess at what the tempo for that file is. And then what you do is you click this down arrow, and you will get an option here to say that says confirm tempo. I've already done that, so because I've already done that, I don't get that option anymore. But I can clear this value, and it will go to not set, and then it will be as if there's no file tempo data written to the file whatsoever. And then all of this will be out of whack because it won't know how to time stretch. So I'm not going to do that because I would want to mess up this song particularly. So this, I know that this file is 67 beats per minute. All right. But if I set this to don't follow, now look what happens. That's the correct tempo for the original file, but I want it to follow everything else, because if I don't, this is what happens. Doesn't work, right? So I need this to be set to time stretch. All right. So I hope that helps answer that question for you there, Arcadian Serpent. Cool. He says, thanks so much. Awesome. Paul, thank you. You said, yes, the templates are there. Okay, good. So if the templates are there, go ahead and create a project. Go ahead and create a show. And either the project page or the show page will open up depending upon which one you click on. Okay? And then you'll have the show page, you'll have the project page. They work. All right, we are at 1 a.m., which is 7 p.m. Central Time. We are out of time. We have reached the end of our hour together. Thank you, everybody, for the awesome questions. And Paul Morgan, I hope I have helped you to resolve that. You're going to have to maybe do a little bit of experimentation and testing by the sound of it. But if it says Studio One 6 Professional and you have the project list and the shows list and you've got those templates for project and show and you're able to open one or the other, then it is working as expected. It's just that the buttons for song, project, show, and all of that used to be up the top here in Studio One 5, they're not there anymore. They don't exist in Studio One 6. Everything is all done via kind of like this much more generic documents button. As you can see, I have, if I right click here, I have it says songs, projects, and shows. All right, so I have one of each of the three types of documents open. I have a song, I have a project, and I have a show open. All right, so the old project and old show button and old song button no longer exist. They've been basically squished into one button, which is just a general documents button. So if you see that documents button, but you don't see any of the individual buttons like you used to for other versions of Studio One, for older versions of Studio One, that'll be why. If you're used to looking up the top of the screen and seeing those three buttons and you don't anymore, you just see a document button, that's why. That's by design, okay? It's not that anything's wrong with Studio One, it's just that that's changed. They've basically smartened everything up and made everything a bit more streamlined. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Cool, he's going to try that. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Wonderful questions, everybody. Those were really great questions. So can we kind of like do this every week? Because I love it when you guys ask these really great questions, because you get me thinking and that helps me make sure that I answer your questions to the best of my ability. And also it means that everybody else gets to learn, and I also get to learn kind of the things that trouble you guys. And then I can start thinking about, maybe I could do some standalone videos on those kind of things. So that helps me. Your questions help me a lot. Okay, so keep them coming. If during the intervening time between now and next Sunday, you have another question that you think, oh, if I don't get this to Jonny, I'll forget, then please, I need to go to the lounge for this, sorry. Please go to the web address at the bottom there, jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Go there, hit the contact button. That'll take you to the contact form. Drop me an email through the contact form and write out your question. And we'll make that the feature question for the next show. Okay? Cool. All right. Everybody's happy. All right. So I will see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. At the moment, I don't have an extra guest, but we'll see. I may or may not have one, but we'll see. Otherwise, please do have a great week, and I'll see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, 6 p.m. right here on this channel. See you then. Take care, everybody.